Chapter 33. Night shifts were an intense time. No interruptions from visitors, just the challenge of trying to sleep. The hospital supplied a fold-out bed for our overnight visits, but we were only grabbed what seemed like a fleeting moment in that bed. Long after the last of the visitors had departed, there would be that final trip to the pavement before attempting sleep. Interruption for medication and the constant trips from the bed to the toilet. And the trip back out to the pavement in the middle of the night, a refugee from the hospital room. It was cold out there, but she never seemed to notice. A rug draped over her legs, but for us, as we braced ourselves against the chill, we were reminded of why we were there. She commented one night that I didn't seem too keen on venturing out at that hour, but I assured her my concern was the wear and tear on her body, the sleep lost, the stress of reality, and she slept through that night. My girls all took their turns at the night nursing. There were concerns that Ella, our baby, might find the going tough, but I knew all would be well, and she was, after all, with Julia. It was the night Julia dreamed that her twin was at the altar and woke in a flurry, anxious to get dressed for the occasion. Afterwards, Julia said wistfully, "Ella is grown up." And Ella had at last the opportunity to tell her sister how much she loved her. She took care of us as much as we took care of her. Katrina's nights were overrun with grief, which gripped her in a constant struggle to avoid tears. But Julia provided her with comfort. Emma, practical and yet emotional, a good big sister. Julia knew us all, remembered the details of our lives, what was going on in the background at the time and what mattered to us most. Painful as it was a privilege that we all shared. Annie did a night shift. She was very concerned that she might be taking special time from us, but I reassured her that Julia needed her support, and that was our concern. They had a wonderful night together, a massage for Julia, and Annie played the song that she had chosen to sing at the funeral, a request from Julia that challenged Annie, who was determined not to let her down. Then Annie did her healing, and Julia slept through the nighttime pavement run, energised by Annie's love. One of her dear girlfriends stayed another night, under instructions to bring her beer and reminisce just like old times. She brought a painting she had produced in response to Julia and a poem to express it all, and Julia had a wonderful time despite the wheelchair beside her bed. She was determined that there could still be good times. Emma and Brad, Ella and I were invited to lunch at her favourite sushi restaurant. Julia, frail in her chair, our fellow diners moved by her appearance. We sat there immobilised by the situation, but we ate the food she ordered, determined to give her back what she wanted to give us. "Wheel me outside, please, Mum," she said apologetically, her food untouched, her face pale, shaking with the determination that we should have a pleasant meal, share ourselves at that table. Uncle Paul was waiting on the other end of the mobile as I wheeled her outside, and she was lost in her pleasure of chatting to him, making light of reality, arranging the time for his visit. He was coming back from the Philippines with great haste. I pushed her back to the car, proud of her in her chair. My girls and I had a night off together when Annie stayed that night with Julia, and we took the opportunity to weep together. stunned by the thought that our lives would be forever changed. How could we conceive of a life without her? We had all travelled, but for years had shared a dream of experiencing a new destination together, the five of us. We would go together after her death, as soon as the circumstances permitted, and raise our cups to her so she could be with us. And she was delighted when we revealed our plan and saw at once a purpose to the proposal. She determined that she must leave enough money to help with the fares, her contribution to our shared journey.